Loud
Says
and
we are.
clear. All right. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with welcome and introductions. To start, you'll notice that we're on a different platform today. We're on Zoom. A couple things to note before we take roll call. The chat windows here in the future will be disabled. That way we can get away from any side comments. Go ahead, Ray.
This meeting it will not be, but future meetings will be.
Future meetings will not have the chat window. That way any side conversations are not being missed by when it's basically aired to the public. So just so you guys are aware, that's going to be a change coming up here. So let's just be mindful of that and mindful of what we put in the chat today as well. That way we can meet the Open Meetings Act and all that good stuff. So I believe that's the whole reason for it, right, Ray?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So right. This is a new platform for me. So do you see the agenda right now?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Looks good. Thank you, Ray. Okay. Let's go ahead and do roll call. Ray, you mind doing that?
I do not mind one bit. Let's see. We got Tony Doan here. Quinn Tai?
Here.
Corey Thomas.
Here.
Damon Jegg. I think he's attending the building code meeting. John Napier. Didn't he go get coffee?
Yeah, he did.
He went
Okay.
got coffee.
I see him online here. John's alternate, Michael Six. Ken Brulette. I see you, Ken.
Here.
There we go.
Dave Cocott.
Here.
Matthew Campbell.
Here.
Kevin Marr.
Here.
And Chris Seaman.
I work with Chris, and I think he's at the building code meeting.
Okay, who is that?
This is Quinn talking, but Chris Seaman is probably at the building code meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to be recognized that's online or on the phone?
This is Paul Clark. I'm an alternate for Matt Campbell.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I got you.
We can get that roster updated, Ray, for that.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, excellent. So first order of business is to review and approve the agenda. I have a motion I'd like to make a motion to move item number 6, which is address the House Bill 2701, and swap that with 8. So we'll be talking about the House Bill last. Looking for a second.
I'll second that motion for you.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I would like to also make a motion that we add, maybe before number 9, other business.
Yes. I'll second that. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Adding other business. Okay. All right. Review and approve we'll go to agenda item number 3, review and approve December 7th, 2020 summary minutes. Those are posted on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss on that or change that they didn't like in the minutes or think needs to be added? If not, we're looking for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the December 7th, 2020 summary minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Napier. We have a motion on the
I'll
table.
second it.
Who had the second?
This is Quinn.
Thank you, Quinn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any against, say nay. Okay, motion carries. All right, so we'll be going over number 4, which is overview of the code adoption and amendment cycle and the role of the TAG. We went over it a little bit at one of our first meetings, and so I feel like we're pretty, I think we're okay for the most part as a group as far as what that looks like. The one thing that I do want to point out here is that the state amendments that are currently in place, our deadline for being done with our process and reviewing those is March 15th, which gives us 6 meetings between now and then if we're going to have them on Thursdays weekly moving forward. And so that's kind of our role for the first section of this, is to get the currently adopted Washington State amendments finished for the 2021 code. And is there any questions as far as what our role is or the overview of the code adoption that's linked in the agenda? Okay. We'll move to item number 5, which is resources available for TAG members. Ray, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Because I think we're taken care of here.
I think so. I think has everybody who's asked for a book got a book? I think Shannon's been working diligently on that. I was mistaken when some of the chapters, the red line version. I'm sorry. Let me pull this up here. Well, maybe I don't have it up here. I'm sorry. Well, the resources available, you are allowed the red line version for the chapters that you were assigned. So if you thought you were getting a whole red line IFC, I might have led you wrong on that. But I think everybody's up to speed with what they requested.
Okay. So if there's anything that comes up between now and future meetings, and especially once we're done with this process, then we can figure those out. I mean, as that goes, but right now we don't see any issues with what people have been given so far. That's my understanding of it.
Should we have received something?
Pardon me, go ahead.
Should we have received something?
I received a link personally that gave me a link to the code, but I don't know what everyone else received or what requests were made. I don't have that list.
Matthew, we'll connect after the meeting and I'll make sure you get what you requested. You might have heard we've been a little busy over here lately. Something might have got slipped in the cracks.
Not a
Yeah,
problem.
this is Dave Cocott. I'm not sure if I thought I asked for something, but I haven't received anything either.
Okay, I'll check. I'll just do a whole overview with Shannon after this meeting and make sure that, because we do have a spreadsheet with everybody's requests. I'll make sure that, and I'll follow up with an email this week.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Okay.
Hey, Ray, is the significant changes available, the entire document, do you know, or is it still coming soon, the PDF version?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
The significant changes to the 2021 code that's put out by ICC, do you know if it's still in the coming soon phases or if it's available yet?
I will have to look into that. I'll put that in the email.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing further on number 5, we're going to go to number 6, which has been amended. We're going to be assigning chapters for TAG member review. So Ray, if you can pull up that document, we'll start at the top and start working our way down.
I'll sign up for the OT chapters.
If someone wants to go even, we'll be done.
I'm stepping up. Are you seeing the document?
No, we still see the agenda right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Share screen. Let me know if it pops up.
We got it now. It's looking good.
Okay. Thank you.
the building code tag did their assignments, I believe it was last week. Is that correct, Ray?
Yes.
Yeah, so we do have some overlapping chapters, and obviously we have to work with them on some stuff. So we have 9 and 10 specifically that we have some people on that are part of the building tag as well as the fire tag, so that'll help. But we'll also have an opportunity for others to jump in and assist in that process. So starting off, we'll start at the top, and as far as the WACs go, as far as the general sections, Ray, so staff with SBCC, he's signed up to take that first portion, and so that's taken care of, unless anyone else wants to jump in on that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down these, one at a time, and anyone who's interested, go ahead and speak up, and you can take that section, and we'll write your name in, and then we'll go to the next section. And then if we don't get a volunteer, then we'll have to find someone before moving forward. That's how we're going to assign it. So until it's all assigned and divvied out, and then after that, we'll discuss our meeting schedule and how we're going to break out all those sections and when they need to be completed. So, all right, so let's go. Go ahead.
Just to reiterate what we're doing here is we're only reviewing what's currently a state amendment. So as you're reviewing it, you'll compare it to the 2021 IFC. If the 2021 IFC has picked up that amendment, you'll have it up here. The tag member's recommendation, who has the chapter, will put however it works out, picked up in 2021 code. Then we'll have the tag recommendation and any comments for the council when this is taken before council. So we're not going, when we assign you a chapter, this spreadsheet will be on the website. And these links are hot links to each one of those chapters. So you don't have to go searching for them anywhere. You can go right off this document. So we're just reviewing the state amendments. We're not going into the whole building code or the fire code yet. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we cleared that.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. And that's where that March 15th deadline comes in. Correct, Ray? That's where we're.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just so we can get the current state amendments. I mean, the ultimate goal through the council is to have the least amount of amendments as possible. But obviously, we're going to have amendments.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Hey,
Yes, go ahead, John.
I'll take section 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Is that John?
Yep.
Yeah. John Napier, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Hey, Ray, I got a quick question before we start. I was able to download the spreadsheet, but in terms of if we were to write something in there, how do you want us to convey the recommendations?
I would write them into your spreadsheet, and then as we review them as a tag, I will put them on the master spreadsheet.
Okay.
And you can, if you'd like to, you can email them to me before a meeting, and I will update the spreadsheet as needed.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Ray, can you add a column for who's going to take which chapters, so then we know who to talk to if we need to?
Yes, as soon as this meeting's over, I'm going to put them here as a tag members. Here where it's highlighted, I will add those and I will send it out to everybody. It'll be right here.
Okay. Does that make sense, Ken? Is that what you were asking for? I think so.
I was trying to nod my head to see if you saw me.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. So 1, 2, and 3 is taken care of, right? So can you scroll up, Ray? Sorry, other way down. Yeah. I guess. Okay. So we have chapter 4, emergency planning and preparedness. Do we have anyone that wants to take that one on?
Since this was pretty heavily amended previously from the prior tags, I'd like to go ahead and take this one on. This is Dave Cocott.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Okay, and then we have 5, which is fire service and features.
Ooh. Ken will take that.
Ken's got that? Okay.
Yeah, since I did the 510 stuff and been working with that, I thought I'd better volunteer for chapter 5.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. All right, and 6, we have building services and systems.
This is Quinn. I'll go ahead and take that.
Thank you, Quinn. Okay, and 7, we have fire and smoke protection features. I can take that one, Ray, if you want to put my name on that one. And go ahead. Okay, and then 8, we have interior finishes.
This is Dave. I'll go ahead and take that one.
Thank you, Dave. And so for 9, we have Corey Thomas, right? Is signed up with building side.
Check my notes here. Yes, Corey Thomas would like chapter 9 and Chris Seaman would like chapter 10.
Okay, does anyone else want to be a part of 9 and 10?
Yeah, this is Kevin Marr. I'll participate with 9 and 10.
Okay, excellent. So let's go. We got 9, 9 and 10. And then Chris is.
Kevin, are you part of the building code tag?
No, I am not.
Okay, that is, we'll correlate with them during 9 and 10 to make sure that the IBC and the IFC have the same amendments in them together.
Okay. All right, very good. So on to 11, I believe.
I can take, yeah,
Dave
I'll work with Dave if you want.
I'd like to do that one also, Dave Cocott.
So Dave and Ken for 11.
Matthew Campbell as well.
Okay. 11. And I did hear Ken Brulette in there too, right, for 11?
Oh, heck no, not now. After you guys got 2 people.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. So Dave and Matthew. Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. And 12 is energy systems.
This is Quinn. I'll go ahead and take that as well because I'm part of the IRC tag.
Excellent. Thank you, Quinn. Oh, that's 12. I put 11. Okay. And then
I'll take 20, 21, 22, 23.
That's so sweet of you, Ray. Thank you. Thank you. All the way through 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go to 31, which is tents and temporary structures. 31. You can put me down for that one, Ray. I'll do 31.
Okay. 31.
Ignore 25, the next line there. That's a misprint. That's going to be taken off that sheet. And so 32, we don't have anything. 33, fire during construction and demolition. 33.
This Dave Cocott, I take that because I got involved with the FCACs on this.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that.
Matthew Campbell as well.
Okay, Matthew Campbell also. All right, excellent. Okay, that was 33. So we have 36 marinas.
This is Kevin Marr. I'll take that one.
Okay. Okay, excellent. And 39.
I would like to speak on this one, Tony, when you get
Go
a chance.
ahead, Ray. Yeah.
Okay. 39 was not heavily amended, it was moved from 38 to 39. It was captured in a CR 105 during the process. And now it's been formally, the CR 103P for permanent rulemaking has been submitted, but the website for the for Washington State legislation has not been updated yet. So if you could use this 105 hot link here, that will take, and it's also posted on the website under our meeting. That will take you to what the current amendment will say on the website when they finally get it updated. I recommend that everybody look at that 105 because that picked up a lot of editorial mistakes during the whole process, and they've been corrected. So it's just something to go through, and you might see a couple of your chapters in there with some minor changes.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ray. So do we have a volunteer for 39?
This is Dave Cocott. Since I wrote a lot of it, I probably ought to.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Okay.
Dave, if you need any help on that one, you can reach out to me, because I wouldn't mind getting a little more involved in that, since it's becoming a hot topic.
Yeah, it's actually cooling off a little bit with the new codes and stuff there, but I have good access to Tracy Harvey, who got the national code update taken care of too. So
Yeah.
But yeah, we can definitely include you.
Thank you.
Um,
Again, and then the number 40 here is the same thing. That was it's fixed guideways and transits. That was actually 39. So this has been moved to 40. So if you click this hot link, it'll take you to that same code, that CR 105 that was filed.
Something else to keep in mind on that, Ray, is the 2021 fire code has chapter 40 as storage of distilled spirits and wines.
Okay, this is the process that we'd fix that.
Okay, all right, excellent. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll take number 40.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. So let's go.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
John
John.
Napier.
Oh, John. Thank you, John.
Okay, and then we have chapter 50, hazardous material.
I'd be happy to work on that one too.
Thanks, John.
I'll take a look at Matthew Campbell as well.
Okay. 50.
I appreciate all the great volunteers.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Well, you haven't seen our work yet, so.
Okay, 56, explosives and fireworks. I can take that one, Ray. All right, let's go to 57, flammable and combustible liquids.
And I'll be happy to be part of that, Ken Brulette. It's got the on-demand stuff that is coming.
Thank you, Ken. So that was 57. Okay, and then 61, LP gases.
I'll take that one, Tony.
You want that one, Ray? Okay.
Yeah.
And we have 80 for reference standards.
So this, what he was just talking about, all the state fire marshal.
Any volunteers for reference standards?
This is Corey. I can do that too.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate
Sure.
it. Okay. And then we have the IWUI, the Wildland Urban Interface, set for 82.
I'll work on that one.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this is Dave
John.
Cocott. I'll work with John too.
John
John.
and Dave.
John and Dave.
John.
Wow, that was easy.
Okay, very, very impressive. Thank you, everyone, for volunteering and taking on those assignments. Let's see. So now what Ray and I talked about a little bit, and I'd like to get the group's idea on this. This is moving on to our tentative meeting schedule, which is number 7 on our agenda. So what we were thinking is on these weekly meetings, if we had them Thursdays from 10 to 2, first of all, we're moving away from Wednesdays because that's when the building tag is setting theirs, right? Ray, that's kind of
Yeah.
what we talked about.
Yes.
So that Thursday 10 to 2, I'm hoping works for most everyone. Is there anyone with conflicts where that would just be a hard no?
Which date, what day and time again?
We would plan on 10 to 2 on Thursdays, and we would meet once a week from here until March 15th, just so we can get this portion done.
Or until we finish everything.
Or until we finish. What we need is basically once a week between now and March 15th, we need to be finishing up with about 4 sections per meeting in order to hit our deadline.
Let's Dave Cocott. I do have a regular meeting from 1 to 2 on Thursdays, so I'd only be able to go 10 to 1.
Okay.
Dave, I don't see our meetings lasting a full 4 hours. If you have a meeting,
Oh, I've seen them go that far.
oh yeah, I especially when we get into the book, you are correct. But I was thinking on state amendments. If you have a conflicting thing, we don't mind taking your comments first to get to the meeting if you have to go out.
Yeah, I don't think these meetings will last that long. So I agree with you. I think we'd be done by then. So
Okay. Excellent. Well, that's what we'll plan on. And then at our next meeting, which would be
4th.
Yes, the 4th. Thank you. February 4th. What we were planning on is just starting at the top. Starting with general. Ray, would that be something ideally that you could have done by next Thursday? The general section that you took on?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the scope and administration and definitions, and we would just start from the top and go down. And then if anyone wanted to bump their section, then they could. And then if anyone was done with theirs, we could entertain that as well and just knock out as many as we can. But basically starting from the top going down, recognizing that some chapters like 9 and 10 will need to be, bumped further, obviously. So let me know your thoughts on that as a group.
So this is Ken. So that next meeting, it's in conflict with the WSRB meeting I have. So I might not be able to present chapter 5. I might be able to have to jump in late.
Okay.
But that meeting's from 10 to 11:30. So, and sometimes those go really quick.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll be ready. I should be ready with chapters 1, 2, and 3 by then too.
Excellent. Well, that gives us our 4 sections for our first meeting, and then we can get an update on how everyone else is doing. And if someone has another section that they're ready for, if you can contact Ray and let him know, we'll throw it on the agenda. Does that sound good, Ray? Is that kind of how you want to do that?
That sounds great. And anything that you have done that you would like to update on the spreadsheet, I will update my spreadsheet to bring to the meeting. If not, I'll just add it during the meeting. So however you want to work it, we'll get through it.
Excellent.
And Ray, do you need the materials like a day or 2 before to get posted?
Well, most of the time, the only thing that needs to be posted or that we like to post would be the work that the tag did. So you'll always be one spreadsheet behind that's posted, but I can update.
Okay.
I'll update it during the meeting.
Ray, just so I understand how this is going to look, what would happen if someone spoke up during the meeting and said, "Hey, I'm ready with chapter 30," but that was like way down the line? Are we able to approve it, or does that have to be on the agenda in order for us to bring that in?
No, I'm going to leave the agenda very open that we're reviewing current state amendments. So we can do any chapter, anytime.
Okay.
Anytime we want.
So we won't be restricted by a previous agenda or what the agenda says. We'll just leave that very open.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So probably what my question would be is if a tag member wanted to propose any changes, do you need that material ahead of time so that it can be posted for public or anybody to look at any proposed changes?
If you can get it to me, I'll bring it up during the meeting, and then it'll be posted after we review it. I'm hoping.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Can that table be emailed so we could fill it out as it is? It's a read-only document on the website. Could we get a copy of that table of sections so we can fill in our notes?
Yes.
Or am I missing something? Okay.
Nope, you're not missing anything. I will send this out after the meeting.
Thank you.
And so that'll probably be in like an Excel format then, Ray, instead of PDF.
It would be
Okay.
for everybody.
Thank you, Ray. Okay.
And then, Mr. Chair, before we move off of the topic of the meeting schedule, is it possible, Ray, to have you send out meeting invites through Outlook for all of our meetings? So, because it's cumbersome to go out and find it in an email, and it'd just be nice if we could just get it all done through Outlook. And then if there's any documents, we can also possibly attach them there for us to review instead of having to go out to the website and go through the agenda to get to the links.
Yeah, that's a great point, John. Now that we're into Zoom, those invites are pre-populated, so I will just add you to the invite email that you would normally get.
Okay. Yeah, we lost you right there. But if, yeah, I think that would be beneficial to all members of the TAG. If we could all get the email with the invite link, that just helps it throw it on our calendar instead of having to get in there and do that. But hopefully Ray gets back to us here soon. So, all right. So are there any other comments or questions or discussion on the tentative meeting schedule? Ray's back. Okay. So
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. We'll jump to our next item, which is going to be addressing House Bill 2701. This has an effective date of July 1. I don't know that we'll hit that, but there's also quite a few things within this bill that are I would say lacking some direction for what our role in this is. And so I would like to open it up to discussion. And I'm going to hopefully people that are a little more aware of this bill and familiar can kind of talk about what some of the challenges are with what route we're going to take with this.
Yeah,
This is Dave. I knew it'd be either John or I would be the one to speak up. So the Farm Marshal Association actually looked at this last year, and we were not in support of it because it basically, for an RCW, this has got an amazing amount of detail in it. You know, very specific requirements that usually is left to the Building Code Council to coordinate with. And even talking with, well, Section 4, one of the interesting things there is that State Building Code Council should work in conjunction with Director of Fire Protection. The State Fire Marshal's office really hasn't been up to speed with this either. So it's going to be a challenging thing for us to create something that's relatively enforceable. It's very difficult. And we're talking about things that we may not even know where these pieces of equipment are, and trying to create some kind of inspection system for them. It's going to be a challenge. At least that's from my point of where things are at.
Thank you, Dave. John, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that before Ken Carlson retired from Bellevue, they had already started to try to address this at the local level. And Travis Ripley is the acting fire marshal since Ken has retired. And he was working with industry trying to figure out how they were going to navigate through this minefield that was created. I've spoken to him, and due to retirements and some other things, they haven't really been able to finish their work with industry. But from what they're gleaning from industry is that definitely we need to put a pause on this and possibly delay it at least a year. As Dave said, I have some real concerns being a fire marshal because we have no idea where all these dampers are installed. Those dampers are records of the mechanical code official. And we've not had any discussions on how we're going to get that information. And then there's been zero public outreach in this regard. I spoke to our local city attorney's office about this implementation. And, it's very odd for us because this is an RCW, not a WAC. And so there has been case law that clearly identifies that the locals have to adopt the RCW so they can enforce it. And basically the most recent case was Auburn versus Gant. And so because this is an RCW, that then requires the locals to have to adopt it locally, mainly to clarify the penalties phase of this. It's the legal department read it, and it's a mess. It's very vague on who's doing citations. And in some cases, the money ends up in the state training fund under the Washington State Patrol. But that our legal department spin on that's really if the locals don't have clarity on where it's going. So it's that section 5 is very muddied, and it's definitely going to need some work. And as Dave said, I really think it probably should have just been sent to the SBCC to create rules, administrative rules for it. I don't know if there's an ability to talk to the bill sponsor to see if we can get some language changes that would just allow this to go back into rules, and that we could really sit down with all the parties and industry and do this right. The fact that it's an RCW, it's very difficult to make changes to. So yeah, I just think that we have an opportunity potentially to fix it if there's a way to do that. And I guess I'd have to, suggest that, we talk to SBCC about how best we can do that. Because I think definitely the enforcers and industry want the best product that we can provide that's easy for all of us to address. But right now, we don't even have a clue where these things are located. So it's very problematic.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Ray, go ahead, Matthew.
I was curious whether or not the Committee on Local Government could be useful in this regards, because it does seem like it's directed I'm trying to imagine the implementing body here, the impacted, who has to actually do this, that if I were a local government, I would find this difficult to work with as well, and that they might be supportive of massaging or modifying maybe pushing it to the SBCC for rules as referenced.
Yeah, and currently, as it stands now, this is Ray, excuse me. I've been working on this pretty hard over the weekend and this week. You're right, there's a lot of hurdles in this, but with it being a legislative mandate and an RCW, our hands are pretty tied. I know, John, you wanted to move it out, and I talked to Richard about that, and he basically, the answer was no. We couldn't. I think this one's really, really tricky. I talked to Tony a little bit. I don't know, Tony, you want to talk about what we talked about? We kind of feel it is the local. It's a local enforcement issue. If we just put a pointer in the code to meet the legislative mandate that what we say to the WAC.
Could we put something in there that is where we leave it up to the local authority having jurisdiction to adopt that?
We can. I mean, that's pretty much already the rule and the law, or the way the bylaws are. But I think I still think you need to reference the WAC in the amendment. I think it's section 909. We can go into the inspection end of it and say, and I'm just throwing this out here off the top of my head, something that just says inspection and testing must follow the rules of section 909 and RCW. And then that covers the legislative mandate. It's in the code, and then the AHJ would enforce it as they saw it was necessary. And like I said, this is just something off the top of my head to try to meet this that I've been trying to work out.
I guess that's what we need to decide is our role. Are we able to do anything other than find a way to adopt it?
Well, it's kind of like John said, it's a RCW, not a WAC. So it's a law. The local jurisdiction has to do it right now, July 1, no matter what. I mean,
I think as a local AHA that we can point to section 4, because it does say, like Dave was bringing up, that they have to coordinate the implementation portion of section 2 and 3. That has not been done yet. So as an AHJ, I don't even know how I can enforce this, because part of that RCW hasn't even taken place yet.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. That's really the crux of this whole thing, and why I raised the issue several weeks ago, is that the coordination between State Patrol and SBC has not even started. And so I appreciate the need for the time of July 1, but since the discussion hasn't even started, I don't know how you can ask the local authorities to take on this unfunded mandate. Well, I understand it's not the state council that's doing that, but there's a lot of questions, and the last thing we want to do is turn it over to the locals without clear guidance, because everyone's going to have their own rules, and it's going to be back at the state legislature again. So
I agree. And in addition, the fiscal note that was provided is flawed, because it says the bill would not impact local government resources. That's flawed. It also says that already currently smoke fire damper systems are inspected by the county fire marshal's office, city fire marshal's office, city building department, or the state fire marshal's office, depending on the jurisdiction, which is, everybody agrees it's untrue. We don't do those inspections. So the fiscal note was wrong. And I think really, if any way we can go back to the proponents of this bill and put a pause on it so we can clean it up, we have to do that. We have to push hard. I don't know if we can get it on the legislative session or not, but implementation of this is just not going to happen.
Can forgive me for not being familiar. As I read the bill, it would appear that like section 2 is a mandate to the building owner. And this, as reading through the language, it kind of looked like, is this not already, is there a chance, and somebody knows better than I do, is this language pretty much cut and paste from chapter 7 of the fire code, which already authorizes the testing and inspection and whatnot? So they're not really asking for anything new. They're just imposing a system of civil penalty for an existing requirement on the owner.
Well, yeah, I would have,
sorry.
Well, yeah, I would have to agree that the fire code already states that people have to comply with the reference NFPA standard, which talks about the inspection of these types of devices based on the NFPA standard. It's just what's happened is, it's like John was saying, it's an unfunded mandate to tell the AHJs that they have to go out now and enforce this RCW, versus before they could, ask for a list of fire smoke dampers that have been tested and see if the property owner had it. So it's always been in the code. It's just now it's an RCW separate. It's just, again, just not ready.
Created an administrative requirement upon the local jurisdiction to make sure they're doing their homework, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, it's pushing the local AHJ to saying that you have to enforce this part of the code. You have to do this, you have to do that. And it's going to create a tremendous workload.
Are you open to questions from somebody outside the TAG Council?
Absolutely, yes.
This is Lee Craiglow. I'm Deputy Building Official at the City of Moses Lake. I've had conversations with our fire marshal. Unfortunately, he's out of the area right now, not able to attend this. One of the questions that we've had is there's an administrative responsibility now to go out and administer these civil penalties and that. But what method do we have to recover the cost to administer? It seems like all the money that we collect has to be sent to the state with no remedy, no way to, we may have to hire another inspector to administer this. How do we recover the cost to do that?
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and it sounds like the citation, whether it's a portion or all of it, goes to a state fund that's already earmarked in this language, and so that's just another issue, I guess. Ray,
hey, I read it. All the funds have to go to the state.
Oh, okay.
It seemed to me fairly clear.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for that, Lee. I appreciate you speaking up there. Ray,
Thank you for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ray, what happens if section 4, the new section 4, where it says the state building code council shall work in conjunction with the director of fire protection to coordinate the implementation and enforcement of sections 2 and 3 of this act. What happens if that shall has not been met? Is there anything we can hang on that says that this portion has not been taken care of yet, so we can't push it forward? I mean, I know the answer from Richard was, you know, probably a hard no, that we can't push it, but it sounds like I don't know that within our tag, from what I'm hearing, that we're going to get anyone backing this to move forward. And if that's the case, what happens? What happens? What's the process?
To tell you, be honest, I really don't know. This is a very unique situation. We deal very little with RCWs. I think it's as confusing to the local authorities, AHJs, as it is to the building code council. Me personally, I'm guessing my next step would be to reach out to the director of the fire protection to coordinate, and to the proponent, and maybe get them to come to our meeting next week, and we can talk about this and then come up with some sort of solution.
Would the proponent have between now and next week, are we able to find out what steps need to be taken in order to push this a year? Like, if the proponent went and said, yeah, we're not ready for this, would that be the best route to go? We need to find that path, whatever that path is. I don't know if it exists, but if it does, we need to just figure out what that looks like.
Well, this is Dave Kokot. You know, as an RCW, the only people that can change the RCW is the legislators. And if we were to talk to the proponent, and I'm recommending we do so, we just changed Section 8, basically change that effective date till 2022. That gives us a little bit more time to evaluate this. I think a lot more needs to be changed in it. The RCW it's a whack. It's an RCW. I think we need more time to evaluate it because it just didn't get handled.
Yeah, I think Dave, you struck on a good point. I think it would be good for the association to work with the proponent and try. I mean, everybody wants good law. I mean, that's ultimately what we're trying to do. And I think definitely it's an awkward thing for the State Building Code Council to deal with. And it may be best if we could talk to the proponent with some language that tries to set some themes that the State Building Code Council can then enter into rules, because it's very difficult for us, as you know, everything's in the fire code, and now we've got these requirements for these dampers and such, and testing requirements that don't fall in the fire code with everything else. And so we've got this stuff hidden away in RCW that we're just going to forget about. And I'll tell you, if we're not doing this at the local level, and there's a problem in a building, we're going to have real problems for liability if those dampers aren't being tested and stuff. So I think we can have an open discussion with the proponent, and as Dave said, you know, the association is comfortable with helping with getting that done, because this is our membership saying this is a significant problem.
Okay. So as far as, thank you, John. So as far as, and Dave, so as far as direction goes between now and next week, we need an agenda item to go over this with hopefully the proponent and our state fire marshal in the Washington State Patrol's office. Is that the best route? Does everyone agree with that, or?
Is that whom is the director of fire protection? That's the OSFM.
Sorry, say that again.
I apologize.
It's a Washington State Fire Marshal.
So they're on the hook for this as well.
Yes, and I've spoken with their office, and they weren't even aware of it.
Oh,
when was this, Dave?
About a week and a half ago.
Yeah. So I mean, it just got forgotten, and I think it's just because it's so odd. We deal with rulemaking, and I think everybody can get behind the importance of making sure these things are tested and stuff. It's just how it was done. You know, there's technologies out there like Brycer and Tegris and some of these systems that, you know, we can work with them getting that software modified so we can somewhat track this stuff. But, you know, it's going to take 6 months to 9 months to get letters out to all the owners and having them find all these things and then trying to get us a list of all. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of coordination, and my mind would blow if I was in Seattle. So, you know, it's just, we want to do it right. You know, we all take pride in our work. And, you know, I just think we just need to get this thing retooled and have it sent to rules. And just as long as we have some broad goals that we want to make sure we can gain, I think the proponent hopefully will be able to see that. So.
Okay, understood.
Dave, you mentioned about legislation's the only one that can change an RCW. So if the proponent wants to push it out, is that allowed? Or if you know?
Yeah, the particular process I'm not pretty sure with, but you know, all I know is that, you know, to change an RCW, it's got to go through the legislature.
Okay.
So maybe a discussion with the proponent could urge legislation to make that happen. I guess that's the route we have to take at this point.
Does the OSF, okay, forgive me for speaking out of turn on some of the stuff, but
you're fine.
I would imagine that the OSFM might have a legislative liaison who could reach out directly to help facilitate the writing of an amendment to this bill. And the OSFM will have probably a louder voice, a larger platform to speak from than the SBCC. And since it's so much closer to their line of work, that might be a fastest route to get them to recognize or encourage them to recognize their culpability, their responsibility in this one.
Yeah, I have that liaison on an email thread from Melissa Gainey, the Assistant State Fire Marshal. Yeah, they don't really have any skin in the game right now. As far as they're concerned, it's not their problem to solve. And that when I had spoken to their liaison about it, she basically said, you need to work with the SBCC and the proponent to get it fixed, that they're not really involved in it. So they're playing defense, obviously. And but I think the association can help also, and we've got lobbyists that can reach out to the proponent too. We just need to know how we can help.
Right, and keep in mind that it's an unfunded mandate for the locals, but it's also an unfunded mandate for the state fire marshal's office, and they don't have any capability of doing anything like this or overseeing this or even monitoring it at this point. So that's a discussion I had with one of their lead people as well.
Does the SBCC have a legislative liaison who can go directly to reach out on this?
We just answer to the SBCC just answers to current bills. So here's what I'm taking out of everybody's great thoughts. For the next meeting, I'll reach out to the proponent, find out who the proponent is, and reach out. I'll reach out to the state fire marshal's office and see if we can get someone to come to the next meeting. And I don't know if this is possible. I have to run it by my supervisor and stuff, but maybe we have the attorney general at the next TAG meeting to answer some of these RCW questions. Just so we're getting our legal advice from our legal person at SBCC.
Okay. I think that's a good starting point, Ray. And so if we can make that happen I know next meeting is, a week away, but even if it's 2 weeks, I think that's a good route to start with. So.
Okay. And we're the TAG. We can set our meetings anytime we want. If we want to have just a House bill meeting with somebody, I can schedule these meetings. We're not locked to any certain day, certain time, certain number. So if we find value in a meeting just for this House bill, if we find it's going to take up a lot of time for the work of our other assignments, we can do that as well.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Any other discussion on House Bill 2701.
Just a general question. I know that there's timelines for bill submission and modifications, and we've got to take a look at that. Does the TAG have any concerns with the Washington State Association of Fire Marshals using our lobbyists to also make contact with the proponents and review this and discuss it with them before we have our meeting?
I don't see a problem with that.
I don't either. I mean, I would say yes, more the merrier on this.
Yeah, I think expedition, the time is my concern because I know that they're really tight on what they're doing for bills this year. And it's a very awkward, odd session. So having somebody that has ability to be still trying to get a hold of at least the assistance for them, but we at least get some direction because they are pretty busy. So it's going to be, we may or may not be able to get somebody to step in, but at least having the Zoom meeting is a little easier than traveling somewhere or something. So I just, if we can get it done, the sooner the better, I think would be important.
I think that'd be a great idea, Dave.
Yeah, Dave, I've got contacts with BOMA and the other industry players that we may want to break this into a subgroup, and there's some other stakeholders that we probably need to wrap into this to do it right. So I don't know if the tag itself is the end all with all the voices that need to be heard in this this puzzle. So I can offer that too if you want, Ray. I can get you contacts of some other folks potentially that we need to have you know, in the solution. So
yeah, and that would be great. Any people that I can contact would be the best. Remember, being that, yeah, this one's a tough one on me. I mean, we are getting late start, and I've got one end saying we need to pump the brakes, and I got the other end saying it's got to be done by July 1. So I'm being torn two different directions here on. So yeah, anything we can do as soon as possible would be great.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, definitely Seattle wants to be a player in those meetings since we have, 500 of these high-rise buildings. And yes, our mind is blown in Seattle.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, well, I'll reach out to the proponent, the fire marshals, or the state fire marshal, and the AG. That'll be my task for this week.
Okay. Ray, is Richard's last day tomorrow or no?
Friday.
Friday. Okay. If Richard or Stoyan have any questions, about this whole thing or kind of the temperature of the room. I mean, obviously they can go back and look at the video, but if they need to reach out to myself or anyone else, I'm sure that's might help as far as the conflict there.
Yeah.
So, because I know you're going to get that. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be told, like I said, I'm gonna be told on one end to get this done as soon as possible, and then we got other ends. So I'm gonna work. I'm trying to work this as easy as possible, along with having a new supervisor, and so we'll get through it.
Okay.
But Dave, anything you can do through the Fire Marshal Association, that'd be great. I think we can work together and get something accomplished that makes everybody happy.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's move on to other business, which I think is technically number 9 now on the agenda.
And this is Ken Brulette, Seattle Fire. I would like to discuss section 904.1.1 of the Washington State Fire Code.
Okay.
And the implementation of this is supposed to be in a couple days, February 1st. There's currently only 21 people listed on ICC's website that has passed this certification. So this is another one that it's going to be hard for AHJs to enforce with regards to that these people just don't have this certification available yet. And I know this was brought up at the State Building Code Council meeting, and I'm just wondering if any other AHJs are addressing this. Seattle's a little bit unique with our own certification process under which we normally would ask somebody to sign an affidavit stating that they do have this current certificate prior to them being able to take a test in Seattle. And that's a separate issue with regards to this section of the fire code. But just wondering if there's any possibility of pushing this section forward to an implementation date of possibly July 1, like industry was asking for.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to give an update from the association's perspective. We're planning on and coordinating a request for emergency rule to pause the implementation of this for 120 days at the February meeting. So NAFED is already involved in it, and NAFED's very supportive of their test, obviously, but we all understand with COVID, it's very difficult to get the testing done, and there's been zero outreach. And so the association is happy to, email and try to get in touch with all of the vendors that may need this test. If we can be given 120 days in which to do that, to try to get the industry aware of the code requirement, and then that'll allow them time to prepare and take the tests online that they need to gain the certification. And then, so that's kind of the update from the association, is that we will be bringing something forward to the State Building Code Council for consideration at the February meeting. I know it's going to be after the go live date, but I think we can all, if there's only 25 people in the whole state, that's a ridiculous amount. And so we definitely need to do better outreach and implementation of this significant change.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things that I'm sure has already been thought about by multiple jurisdictions, but something to add to the conversation a little bit. I feel like you're putting jurisdictions kind of in between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, we're being kind of told, hey, they have to have this certification. On the other, if we draw a hard line there, then don't our systems, especially our kitchen suppression systems, kind of go untested or not accepting those test reports? And then really what's more, I guess, damaging, which side do you pick on that? And so is there anything that the outside of what the Fire Marshal Association is planning on doing? Really, I don't know that there's much more the fire tag can do. Ray, what do you think about that? I think other than have it presented at the State Building Code Council.
I think the Fire Marshal Association's on the right track. If that's what they feel is at the council level, that's where it would need to start.
Okay.
And then the council would direct staff or a tag to move forward with something.
Okay, John, do you have comments from NAFED on this situation?
Yeah, I have a letter that they wrote to City of Seattle and to State Fire Marshal's office. I'm reaching out to the author of that document. He's the technical specialist. I think he's a vice president with NAFED. And then I'm also working on getting feedback from from contractors from the Seattle Metro, Vancouver Metro, and Spokane Metro areas for feedback to kind of take a temperature of the from the industry's point of view on if they're prepared or not, and if 120 days is going to be adequate enough to get their buy off. So it's basically going to be NAFED, and then I'm going to try to get 3 contractors from the 3 metro areas in the association to put in writing that if we can get 120 days, that we'll collectively work on notification of the industry. And then, access to the testing is online now, so that's really not a problem. And then NAFED, is also very supportive of the certification as the local authorities are. It's just that it's all just about timing. And I think you must have looked at my draft letter, Tony. I don't know how you got access to it, but a lot of the things that you're saying are really the issue, because we're really saying what's more important, at this point is maintaining these systems, and that we does put the locals in a pinch. So yeah, so that's really what the game plan is. And then, yeah, we would just, bring it to the State Building Code Council. We're a little concerned about, the overturning of the last emergency rule. We feel this is a very pointed, a failure in implementation, basically, of everybody trying to get this notice out, and that we hope that the council members will support this, even though the last attempt for a delay was overturned. We kind of see this as a different issue than the State Building Code Council did with the act for deferral of the implementation date. So if that plan sounds good, if anyone has any ideas, we'd sure take anyone's advice on getting some more stakeholders, but that was kind of what we had planned on doing.
Okay, that sounds good, John, and thanks for bringing that to our attention, Ken. Is there any further discussion on that topic?
Okay. A little bit. Just wondering with regards to hood suppression systems and our 6 months suppression inspections, have jurisdictions been asked by restaurants that have been, closed down to, and all of a sudden now their 6 months comes up, but they've been closed down for 6 months, not to have to get those inspected because it says, hey, we haven't been using them for 6 months, and it just doesn't make any sense for us to have to pay for inspection if we haven't been using it for 6 months, or is everybody just stuck with their timeline?
At least in our jurisdiction, we are flexible on the inspection cycle of, based on that table that's in the code. If they were high frequency users and now they're low frequency users, then we just adjust it accordingly. The one thing that we are not bending on is the suppression system maintenance and testing. So that's still every 6 months, and that's our insurance policy. If in case they do have a little bit of extra grease that they probably wouldn't have normally had, but for the most part, most of those kitchens are not running at full capacity, and so we're just moving them into a different category than what they traditionally would have been.
Okay, thanks.
Would anyone else like to speak on the kitchen suppression issue with COVID? Okay. Does anyone else have any other business? Okay. That concludes our TAG meeting, and we'll see everyone next Thursday. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Are we still recording, Ray?
I'm